And whether I liked it or not, or whether I knew it or not, I expected them to be together forever. Rich or poor, sickness and health, till death do us part. And when that didn't happen, something inside of me kind of died. Yo, yo, yo! Welcome to my channel. I should have like a theme song. We'll think about that later. Okay, so today's topic is the implications of divorce. I've been thinking about this for a really long time. I'm currently 29 and my parents probably got divorced, or they separated, I should say. I don't know the exact date of the divorce. 8 years ago. So when I was about 22, 23, that happened. And I've been mulling it around in my head for a long time. And now I'm ready to talk about it. I've thought through this 1,000 times. I've gone through 1,000 different stages, but I think I've learned some things and have made some observations that I think are worth it for other people to listen to. So we're talking about the implications of divorce today. As y'all know, I'm super single, so none of this has anything to do with like my current relationship or anything like that. It all has to do with what I've learned just from watching this relationship unfold, which was my parents' marriage. Okay, so my parents were married for about 28-ish years when they got divorced, and their marriage was always rocky. I mean, rocky's not maybe even the word. No, but it's always been rocky. And when they finally got divorced, what happened is that we had a house, and it was like a 4-bedroom house. It had a pool. It was really nice, and our family is really hospitable. That's one of the markings of our family. Anybody's house you go to, like, you know, stay over, eat, all this kind of stuff. So we really liked that about our house. And my mom really loved that because she's one of 8. So when the market went down, right? Like in 2007, 2008 or something like that. And my parents were unable to make the bill. And so we got our house foreclosed on, and we moved into a little tiny 3-bedroom apartment, and that was not okay, and it was too much, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back, without me giving up too much detail here, right? It was a straw that broke the camel's back, and that, like, right when we were moving into that 3-bedroom apartment, that's what happened. My parents decided, you know what? This is not for us. You know, it's a lot more detailed than that, of course. But that's the day that they got divorced. I remember my dad telling me that he was not going to come back to the apartment, and I remember crying. And really crying, like on the floor in the new apartment, begging God that would never be my life, begging God like whatever was in them that caused that to happen, for him to eradicate that from my life completely. I also remember thinking, God, their marriage sucked anyway, so like why do I even feel bad about this? And so we just let it happen. You know, they were separated. We didn't try to do anything about it. And to be completely honest, I was not in the headspace. I was too hurt to even think about what I could have done, what should have been doing, and it just kind of fell apart. It just kind of fell apart. And I watched it fall apart. And I moved to Panama really soon thereafter, after I graduated college. And so I was out of the country for 3 years, not really seeing the implications of what was happening. And then when I moved back home 3 years later, I was living with my mom. I live with my mom. My dad lives about 20 minutes away. And I started to see like what was really up. Like I started to notice some things. And I was like, wow, this is not God's plan. Insert Drake song here. Here's the first thing that I realized. I realized that when my parents said their vows, they did not just say them to each other. They said them to us. That's kind of a heavy statement, but I'm standing by it, okay? When you say your vows, you not only say them to your spouse, but you say them to your children. That's the first implication of divorce that I realized. I was crushed. Like, my whole life had been changed, and I didn't realize it was changing until little things like, oh, snap. Yo, I haven't seen my dad in like 4 weeks. I guess I should like go hang out with him. But that was not something I ever had to think about because my dad lived with me, right? Now that he doesn't live with me, I'm like, what? And whether I liked it or not, or whether I knew it or not, I expected them to be together forever. Rich or for poor, sickness and health, till death do us part. And when that didn't happen, something inside of me kind of died and ripped apart. At 22, you think, okay, if I'm a baby, 7 years old, I have a right to be brokenhearted. I did not realize how brokenhearted I was going to be at 22, 23. It was devastating. So that's the first thing, is that when you say your vows, you say them not only to your spouse, but you say them to your children too. And that brings me to point number 2. Point number 2 is that you say your vows to your spouse and to your future children because it is covenant. Let's talk about covenant, right? When God made covenant with Abraham, he didn't just make it with Abraham. He made it with Isaac. He made it with Jacob, thus making it with the whole people of Israel, thus making it with us when the gospel came to the Gentiles. Don't make me preach, okay? That covenant transcends generations. And because of that, that's why those vows are said to me. So now let's talk about covenant and what do the implications of that covenant have to do with me and their divorce. It's our divorce. That is the biggest thing that I came to the realization of, that it was our divorce. Whether I liked it or not, I felt the weight of what happened to them. And I will continue to feel that weight for the rest of my life, I'm sure. I think of this verse in Galatians where it talks about that we are children of promise. I just love the sound of that. I want that like on my wall when I buy a house. We are children of promise, and it's talking about Isaac versus Ishmael, right? And it's talking about the covenant that God made with Abraham and the promise that he would be the father of many nations, and how that promise manifests itself in the gospel coming to the Gentiles. So you and I are children of promise because the gospel came to us. Just let that sit there for a second, right? So when God made that pact with Abraham, he wasn't just talking to Abraham. And aren't you thankful? Aren't I thankful that that pact was not just for them? So let's talk about my parents' divorce, right? And the covenant. I realized that covenant wasn't just between them, just like their vows weren't just between them, but that covenant is between me and them also, because I'm a child birthed from their covenant. That is when I started to realize that I had a little bit of responsibility in this thing. 2 different people who shall remain nameless told me that I should have said something. I should have done something to get my parents to get back together. At the time, I was too blinded by hurt, okay? I mean, when I say blinded by hurt, I mean, I was just like, that's your issue, stop talking to me about it, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to know. I don't want to hear anything bad about my mom. I don't want to hear anything bad about my dad. Please, 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 please. Everybody just leave it alone. It's fine. If I knew then what I know now, I would have never said those things, and I would have taken action immediately. But you don't know what you don't know. What I learned is that in that family covenant, we are a body. So when one part of the body fails, another part can compensate. I should have compensated for my parents. I should have gotten a biblical counselor. I should have called a pastor. I should have done something. Me and my brothers and I, we should have done something. We were too hurt. I did not truly understand that until it started to affect me. Which brings me to point number 3. Implication number 3 is care. So when one part of the body fails, another one comes in to compensate for it. It started to affect me when my mom got sick last year. Well, she didn't get sick. She had to have rotator cuff surgery, right? So this was going to make her not go to work for 3 to 4 months. It ended up being 4 months, okay? Because my parents, they're not young no more. So it was 4 months. And at first, like, she could not move this arm at all. I had to drive her to all of her appointments. She had to go 3 times a week. And she couldn't give herself a shower, obviously. So guess who had to take their mom a shower? Because I'm the only kid at home, right? So that's what makes me think even more. What if I wasn't at home? Seeing your mother, the rock, right? Like, I am woman, hear me roar, birthed 3 children, raised the 3 children. She's a Haitian woman. Okay, so she's strong. Not be able to take care of herself sent me into a whirlwind. I was like, yo, no, this is not happening. But it made me think down the line, what's gonna happen? So selfishly, this is when I started to realize that I should have done something, because it was starting to affect me. And the Lord had been working on my heart for a while about this divorce and what I should do. And he was basically like, just pray about it, Esther, just pray about it. And sometimes your spirit knows something that it takes your mind a lot longer to catch up to. So my mind, when the implications of what was happening was starting to affect me, then my mind was like, you should have done something. This is why the Lord has been dealing with you on this, with your heart, for so long. And I was shook. So I'm over here taking care of my mother. I'm thinking 10 years down the line, like, if I have a family and kids, like, yes, I'm going to take care of my mom. But I started to think, my dad should be here. Would I still have come to help? Of course. That's not even a question, right? But I just thought so much about how God cares for each and every one of us, and how he built in to his plan for us that kind of care. My parents are supposed to have each other. When I move out, and I buy my own place, they're supposed to have each other. I'm not saying that means that everybody gets married, okay? So stop it, okay? Because that's not the implication here. But the implication is, when you do make those vows, when you do say those things to another person, that it is forever. And God knew what he was doing. Because in that forever, in that having that person to be by your side, not only that, but the other aspect of care is coin, okay? It's not a secret that a 2-income household is better than a 1-income household, right? So my mom's over here trying to hold things down. I help her, I'm just saying. But she wouldn't have to worry as much about me ever leaving if my father was here. And then I'm thinking about, okay, when I leave, I still have to support her. Me and my brother still have to support her when I leave. And I'm like, yo, we wouldn't have to do that if my dad was here. So you see how my selfish nature has come into play, and how it has made me realize what God was trying to say all along. and why his good and perfect plan is right for us. Listen, I want my parents to come back together. I really do. I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't. But I know for the future. I know for when I watch my friends go through deep, hard things. If one of them considers divorce, I know what to say. I have experience to glean from, and all of my future relationships, thinking about covenant and the promises. When I have my kids and, life's not going so well, I know what to think about. I know what experience to glean from. Because I wish I would have done something. I wish I would have said something, because I understand the vows. I understand the covenant. I understand the care that God placed in our lives. And you know what? Coming to all of these realizations after 7 years, my brothers and I decided to approach our parents to get back together. Now, that is a video for another day. Later.